Marcus Blackwood stopped dead in his tracks. There, in the soft morning light filtering through his kitchen windows, sat his new maid cradling his 6-month-old daughter against her chest, the baby's tiny mouth latched onto her breast, the coffee. Mug slipped from his hand, shattering against the marble floor. Before we continue, if you enjoy stories about unexpected human connection and compassion, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. The woman's eyes shot up to meet his, wide with terror. Mr. Blackwood, I can explain, she whispered, her voice trembling as she gently adjusted baby Lily against her. But Marcus couldn't speak. He couldn't move. All he could do was stare at this scene that somehow felt both shocking and perfectly natural at the same time. Isabella Chen had been working in the Blackwood mansion for exactly 3 weeks. 3 weeks since she'd answered the desperate job posting for a live-in housekeeper with childcare experience. 3 weeks since she'd walked through those imposing iron gates, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and a heart heavy with her own devastating loss. What Marcus didn't know, what she'd carefully hidden during her interview, was that just 2 months ago, she'd given birth to her own daughter, a daughter who never made it home from the hospital. The milk had never stopped coming. The doctors said it was normal, that her body would adjust in time. But every morning she woke to the physical reminder of what she'd lost, the aching fullness in her chest, a constant echo of empty arms. She'd been managing it quietly, efficiently, the way she managed everything else, until this morning, when baby Lily's cries had pierced through the silence of the house at dawn. Marcus had left for an early morning meeting, or so she thought. The nanny wouldn't arrive until 8. Lily had been inconsolable for 40 minutes, refusing her bottle, her tiny face red with frustration and hunger. Isabella had tried everything, warming the formula to different temperatures, changing her diaper, walking her around the nursery, singing soft lullabies in Mandarin that her own mother had sung to her. Nothing worked. Then it happened. Lily had turned her head toward Isabella's chest, rooting instinctively, and something deep inside Isabella had cracked open. Without thinking, without considering consequences, she'd lifted her shirt. The relief had been instant, for both of them. Lily had latched immediately, her desperate cries melting into contented sighs, while Isabella felt a peace she hadn't experienced in months. Now, caught in this moment, Isabella's mind raced through explanations, apologies, the certainty that she was about to lose this job that had become her lifeline. But Marcus's expression wasn't what she expected. There was no anger, no disgust. Instead, his dark eyes held something she couldn't quite identify. Surprise, yes, but underneath it, something that looked almost like recognition. The bottles weren't working, she said softly, her accent more pronounced in her nervousness. She was so hungry, so upset. I heard you leave and I thought I could help her before you returned. Marcus finally moved, stepping carefully around the broken ceramic, his expensive Italian leather shoes crunching on the fragments. He pulled out a chair across him from her, sitting down heavily. At 34, he was a man who commanded boardrooms, who made decisions that affected thousands of employees, who had built his tech empire from nothing after his father's small electronics store went bankrupt. But right now, he looked lost. How long has she been crying? He asked, his voice hoarse. Since 5:30. I tried everything else first, Mr. Blackwood, I swear to you. The formula, the pacifier, holding her, walking her. She just wouldn't. She needed... Isabella's voice broke. I know how this looks. I know you must think I'm... My wife used to breastfeed her, Marcus interrupted, his gaze fixed on his daughter's peaceful face. Before the accident. Lily hasn't been the same since we lost Catherine. The bottles, the formula, she fights. Them. The pediatrician said it was normal that she'd adjust, but it's been 3 months and she's still... He stopped, running a hand through his dark hair. She hasn't looked this content since Catherine. Isabella felt tears prick at her eyes. She'd known about the car accident that had killed Mrs. Blackwood, of course. It had been in all the papers. Young mother, wife of tech mogul, gone too soon. What she hadn't known was how it had affected the baby, this sweet little girl who was now sleeping so peacefully in her arms. I'm sorry, Isabella whispered. I didn't mean to overstep. When she looked at me like that, so hungry, so sad, I couldn't bear it. My body, it still thinks... She couldn't finish the sentence. Something in her tone made Marcus look at her more closely. Really look at her. Perhaps for the first time since she'd started working for him. Isabella was 26, with long black hair that she kept in a neat bun while working, and dark eyes that held depths he'd never noticed. There was something about the way she held Lily, something beyond professional competence, something personal. You have children? He asked gently. Isabella's breath caught. I had a daughter, Mei Lin. She was born premature 2 months ago. She lived for 18 hours. The words came out in a rush, as if saying them quickly might lessen their impact. I came here because I needed to work, needed to keep moving, but my body, it doesn't know she's gone. The silence that followed was profound. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a recognition of shared grief that he hadn't expected. Here was this woman, carrying her own devastating loss, and she'd used her pain to comfort his daughter. I should have told you during the interview, Isabella continued, gently adjusting Lily's position, about my situation, but I needed this job. I have nowhere else to go, no family here. I thought I could manage it on my own, that it wouldn't interfere with my work. Where's your family? Marcus asked. China. My parents wanted me to come home after Mei Lin, but I couldn't. Too many memories there, too. The father, he left when he found out about the pregnancy. Said he wasn't ready for the responsibility. Isabella's voice was matter-of-fact, but Marcus could hear the hurt underneath. I thought America would be a fresh start. I had some savings, found a small apartment, started looking for work. Then Mei Lin came early, and the medical bills... She shrugged. I lost the apartment. Had been living in my car when I saw your job posting. Marcus felt his chest tighten. This woman had been homeless, grieving, dealing with the physical aftermath of losing a child, and she'd still shown up to work every day with quiet dignity. He'd barely noticed her beyond her efficiency, the way his house ran smoother, how meals appeared, without him having to think about them, the way Lily seemed calmer. During the day. You've been living here for 3 weeks, he said slowly, but you were hired as live-in help. I assumed you had chosen that arrangement. I was grateful for it, Isabella said simply. The small room upstairs, it's more than I had, and being around Lily, it helps. She reminds me that there's still innocence in the world, still reasons to hope. Lily stirred slightly in Isabella's arms, making a small sound of contentment. Marcus watched as Isabella instinctively adjusted her hold, her thumb gently stroking the baby's cheek. There was such tenderness in the gesture, such natural maternal instinct, that it took his breath away. Catherine used to do that, he said, softly. That exact same thing with her thumb. Isabella looked up at him. She was beautiful. I've seen the photos around the house, and Lily looks just like her. Everyone says that. But lately I see more of myself in her. Catherine was always smiling, always laughing. Lily's been so serious since the accident, like she knows something's wrong. Except, he gestured toward his daughter, who was now sleeping peacefully. Except right now. Babies feel everything, Isabella said. They absorb our emotions, our stress. She knows you're in pain. Marcus considered this. It was true that he'd been struggling, throwing himself into work to avoid dealing with his grief. 12-hour days had become 14, then 16. He'd hired the nanny, the housekeeper, convinced himself that providing for Lily's physical needs was enough. But looking at her now, so relaxed in Isabella's arms, he realized he'd been failing at something fundamental. I don't know how to do this without Catherine, he admitted, the words surprising him. He rarely spoke about his feelings, especially not to employees. We planned everything together, the pregnancy, the nursery, what kind of parents we wanted to be. She read dozens of books, took classes, interviewed pediatricians. She was going to be the nurturing one. I was supposed to be the provider, the protector, but she's gone, and Lily needs... He stopped, his voice thick with emotion. She needs her father, Isabella said gently. Not just your money or the things. You can buy her. She needs you. I don't know how to be what she needs. When she cries, I panic. When she won't eat, I feel helpless. The nanny is competent, professional, but Lily doesn't respond to her either. Not the way she should. The way she just responded to you. Isabella looked down at the sleeping baby. Maybe she just needed to feel mothered again, even if it's not by her real mother. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Marcus found himself studying this woman who had appeared in his life like an answer to a prayer he hadn't known he was praying. She wasn't just the employee. She was someone who understood loss, who had her own reasons for needing to nurture, to heal. What you did, feeding her, is that something that could work again? Is it safe? Isabella nodded. I'm healthy. I had regular checkups during my pregnancy, after the birth. The milk is good, and Lily clearly needs it, needs the comfort of it, the connection. Formula feeds the body, but this feeds something deeper. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing this unexpected solution to a problem he'd been struggling with for months. Would you be willing? I know it's asking a lot, going beyond what I hired you for. Mr. Blackwood, this little girl just gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, the chance to feel like a mother again, even for a few minutes. If it helps her, helps you both, then yes, I'd be honored. Marcus, he said suddenly. Call me Marcus, and I think we need to talk about more than just feeding arrangements. Isabella shifted Lily to her shoulder, patting the baby's back gently. What do you mean? I mean, I've been so focused on managing my grief that I forgot to consider what Lily might need beyond basic care. You've been here 3 weeks, and I barely know anything about you. But in 10 minutes, you've done something for my daughter that no one else has been able to do. Maybe it's time I started paying attention. Over the next hour, as morning light filled the kitchen and Lily slept peacefully in Isabella's arms, Marcus found himself talking more than he had in months. He told her about Catherine, how they'd met in college, their dreams of building both a business and a family together. He talked about the pressure he felt to be strong for everyone else, how he'd thrown himself into work because it was the only place he felt competent anymore. Isabella, in turn, shared more about her journey, her childhood in Shanghai, her parents who ran a small restaurant and dreamed of their daughter having opportunities they'd never had, her move to America for graduate school, her struggles with English and loneliness, meeting David, the American, man who'd seemed like her future until he'd walked away when she'd needed him most, the joy of pregnancy, the terror of premature labor, the brief, perfect hours with Mei Lin before everything changed. I used to think grief was something you got over, Isabella said, watching Lily sleep. Like a cold or a broken bone, you treat it and it heals. But it's more like learning to live with a part of yourself missing. The space never goes away, but maybe you can fill it with something else, something meaningful. Marcus nodded. Catherine used to say that love doesn't end with death, that it has to go somewhere, transform into something else. I thought she was being romantic, philosophical. But watching you with Lily, maybe she was right. Your wife sounds wise. She was. She would have liked you, I think. She always said the best people were the ones who'd been through something difficult and come out kinder for it. As if sensing their conversation, Lily began to stir. Isabella looked at Marcus questioningly, and he nodded. Without hesitation, she adjusted her position and lifted her shirt again. This time, Marcus didn't. Look away. He watched his daughter latch on immediately, her tiny hands coming up to rest against Isabella's skin. It's beautiful, he said softly, and meant it. There was nothing sexual or inappropriate about what he was seeing, only a fundamental human act of nurturing, one that his daughter desperately needed. I dreamed of this, Isabella admitted. With Mei Lin, I had bought special nursing clothes, read books about breastfeeding, imagined quiet mornings like this. When she died, I thought that dream died with her, but maybe it was just waiting for the right moment. Over the following days, a new routine emerged. Isabella would feed Lily in the mornings and evenings while maintaining her regular household duties. But something had shifted between her and Marcus. He began working from home more often, joining them for meals, actually talking to Isabella instead of simply leaving instructions. He learned that she had a business degree from Shanghai University, that she'd come to America with dreams of starting her own company. He discovered she spoke 3 languages, that she played piano, that she had opinions about everything from international trade policy to the best way to make dumplings. She wasn't just his employee. She was an intelligent, accomplished woman who had been derailed by tragedy and circumstance. Isabella, for her part, began to see past Marcus's stern exterior. She watched him try to play with Lily, his awkward attempts at peekaboo and silly faces. She saw how he stayed up late reading, parenting books, how he worried obsessively about every aspect of Lily's development. Underneath the successful businessman was a man drowning in grief and responsibility, trying desperately to be enough for his daughter. You know, she said one evening as she fed Lily, in China we have a saying, a child needs a village. You don't have to do this alone. I have the nanny during the day, Marcus replied, but his tone suggested he knew that wasn't what she meant. Now, that's not a village. That's hired help. A village is people who care about the child for their own reasons, not just because they're paid to. Marcus was quiet, considering her words. And you? Do you care about Lily for your own reasons? Isabella looked down at the baby in her arms, her heart full. She's giving me a way to heal. Every time I feed her, hold her, see her smile, it's like Mei Lin's love has somewhere to go. So yes, I care about her for my own reasons, but also because she's yours and you. You've given me more than just a job. You've given me a purpose. The truth of her words hit Marcus with unexpected force. Somewhere over the past few weeks, this woman had become more than his employee. She had become essential, not just to Lily, but to him. The house felt warmer with her in it, calmer. He looked forward to their conversations, to seeing her gentle smile when he came home from work. But he also recognized the complexity of their situation. She was vulnerable, dependent on him for shelter and income. He held all the power in their relationship, and any romantic feelings he might be developing would be inappropriate, potentially exploitative. Yet he couldn't deny the connection growing between them, the way she seemed to understand his grief without him having to explain it. One evening, As autumn painted the trees outside his windows, Marcus found Isabella in the kitchen after Lily's bedtime feeding. She was washing dishes, humming softly to herself, a Chinese lullaby she'd been teaching Lily. "Isabella," he said, and she turned to face him. "We need to talk." Her face immediately showed concern. "Is everything all right? Is it about the feeding? Arrangement? I know some people might think it's inappropriate." "No," he said quickly. "No, it's not that. Lily is thriving because of you. She's happier, healthier, more content than she's been since Catherine died. It's about us." Isabella set down the dish she'd been washing, her full attention on him. "What about us?" Marcus struggled to find the right words. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper, "and I don't know what to do about it." Isabella's hands stilled completely, her breath catching in her throat. For a moment, the only sound was the gentle hum of the dishwasher and the distant ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. "Marcus," she said carefully, "you're grieving. You're grateful for what I've done for Lily, but that doesn't mean—" "Don't," he interrupted, stepping closer. "Don't minimize what this is. I know the difference between gratitude and love, between grief and genuine feeling. Yes, I'm still mourning Catherine. I probably always will. But what I feel for you, it's not about replacing her. It's about finding something new, something different, something real." Isabella turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. "You're my employer. You hold my job, my home, my entire stability in your hands. How can you be sure that what you're feeling isn't just the power dynamic, the convenience? And how can you be sure that what you're feeling for Lily isn't just about missing Mei Lin?" Marcus countered gently. "Sometimes healing means finding new ways to love, new people who need what we have to give." She whirled to face him, her eyes blazing. "That's different. Lily is a baby who needs care. This, what you're suggesting, it could destroy everything. What happens when you realize you were wrong? When you decide this was just grief and proximity and gratitude? I lose my job, my home, and the only thing that's been keeping me sane these past months." Marcus felt her words like physical blows. She was right, of course. He held all the power in their relationship, and any romantic entanglement could be devastating for her if it went wrong. But he also knew, with a certainty that surprised him, that his feelings weren't going anywhere. "What if I told you that I've been thinking about this for weeks?" he said. "What if I said that even before this morning, before I saw you feeding? Lily, I found myself looking forward to coming home just to hear you humming in the kitchen. What if I admitted that I've started working from home more, not just to spend time with Lily, but because I want to talk to you?" Isabella's resolve wavered. She had noticed the changes in him, the way he lingered over coffee in the morning, how he asked about her day with genuine interest rather than polite obligation. She'd also noticed how her heart skipped. When she heard his car in the driveway, how she found herself putting extra care into meals she cooked for him. "But what about Catherine?" she asked quietly. "Her memory, what people will think." "Catherine is gone," Marcus said, his voice heavy with pain but also with acceptance. "I will always love her, always honor her memory. But she would want me to live, Isabella. She would want Lily to have a mother figure who loves her genuinely, not just professionally, and she would want me to find happiness again." Isabella closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the complexity of emotions swirling through her. Part of her desperately wanted what Marcus was offering, not just love, but a family, a purpose, a future. But another part was terrified of the vulnerability it would require, the risk of losing everything again. "I need time," she said finally. "This is all too much, too fast. I care about you, Marcus, more than I should, more than is probably wise. But I can't make decisions based on what I feel right now, not when everything is so complicated." Marcus nodded, though disappointment flickered across his features. "Of course. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. Nothing has to change. Your job is secure, regardless of what you decide about us." "How can you promise that? How can either of us trust that our professional relationship won't be affected?" It was a fair question, one Marcus had been wrestling with himself. "Because Lily needs you," he said simply. "And I need you to be okay, to feel safe and valued, whether or not anything romantic ever develops between us. You're not just an employee anymore, Isabella. You're family." The word hit Isabella like a physical force. Family. It was what she'd lost when Mei Lin died, what she'd been searching for without realizing it. But was she ready to risk it? Was she strong enough to handle another potential loss? Over the next few weeks, they fell into a careful dance of friendship and unspoken longing. Marcus made no further romantic overtures, but he also couldn't hide the way he looked at her sometimes, with a tenderness that made her heart race. Isabella continued to care for Lily with devoted attention, but found herself watching Marcus more closely too, noticing the way he was slowly learning to be a more present father. The first real test came when Lily got sick with a fever. It was nothing serious, just a common cold, but Marcus panicked. He called the pediatrician, researched symptoms online obsessively, and barely slept for 2 days. Isabella found him at 3 a.m, sitting beside Lily's crib with his laptop, frantically reading medical articles. "Marcus," she said softly, "she's okay. Her fever broke an hour ago. She's sleeping peacefully. But what if it comes back? What if I missed something?" Catherine always knew what to do when someone was sick. She had this instinct, this calm presence. "I feel like I'm failing. Her failing Lily." Isabella sat down beside him, gently closing the laptop. "You're not failing anyone. You're learning. Being a parent means worrying. Means not knowing all the answers. That's normal." "Is it?" His voice was raw with exhaustion and fear. "Because sometimes I look at Lily and I see Catherine, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose her too. And then I think about you. About how I've come to depend on you, and I'm scared that if I love you the way I want to, something terrible will happen." Isabella's heart broke for him. This successful, confident man was paralyzed by the fear of loving again, of allowing himself to be vulnerable. "Marcus, love isn't a guarantee against loss. If I've learned anything from losing Mei Lin, it's that. But avoiding love isn't protection either. It's just another kind of death. How do you do it? How do you open your heart again after losing everything?" "I had no choice," Isabella said honestly. "When I saw Lily that first morning crying and hungry, my heart opened whether I wanted it to or not. And then, slowly, it opened to you too. Not because I stopped missing Mei Lin, but because there was room for both, the grief and the love." Marcus looked at her with something approaching awe. "You're so much braver than I am." "No, I'm not. I'm terrified every day that this will all disappear. That you'll realize what a mess I am, or that something will happen to Lily, or that I'll wake up and discover this has all been a dream." "What would make you feel safe?" Marcus asked. "What would you need to trust this, to trust us?" Isabella considered the question carefully. "Honesty. Complete honesty about what we're both feeling, what we're both afraid of. And time. Not just time to get to know each other better, but time to see how we handle problems together. Stress. Disagreement. Time to make sure this isn't just trauma bonding or convenience. And if, after that time, we both still feel the same way, then maybe we could try," Isabella said, her voice barely audible. "Maybe we could see if 3 broken people can help each other become whole." Marcus reached out tentatively, taking her hand in his. "3 broken people?" Isabella smiled, squeezing his fingers. "Lily lost her mother, you lost your wife, I lost my daughter. We're all carrying pieces of ourselves that are missing. But maybe together we can create something new. Not a replacement for what we lost, but something different. Something beautiful." The next few months tested their resolve in ways neither had anticipated. Marcus's work demanded a 3-week business trip to Asia, and he struggled with leaving Lily and Isabella. Isabella had to navigate questions from the regular nanny about the new feeding arrangement, dealing with judgment and whispered speculation. There were moments of doubt, arguments about boundaries and responsibilities, and the constant underlying tension of unspoken feelings. But there were also moments of unexpected joy. Lily's first real laugh, prompted by Isabella making silly faces during a feeding session. Marcus surprising Isabella with enrollment in a business course at a local college, investing in her dreams for the future. Quiet evenings, when they sat together in the living room, Lily playing on a blanket between them, talking about everything and nothing. The turning point came on a rainy November evening. Isabella had put Lily to bed and was reading in her room, when she heard Marcus calling for her urgently. She ran downstairs to find him in his study, staring at his computer screen with a stricken expression. "What is it?" she asked, immediately fearing the worst. "David," he said simply. "Lily's biological father, he's contacted me." Isabella's blood ran cold. She knew about David, of course, Catherine's ex-boyfriend from college who had signed away his parental rights when Catherine married Marcus, and they decided Marcus would adopt Lily, but he had never shown any interest in the child. What does he want? He's gotten married. His wife can't have children. He wants to meet Lily, possibly pursue visitation rights. He's claiming he made a mistake giving up his parental rights, that he was too young to understand what he was doing. The implications hit Isabella like a physical blow. If David pursued legal action, if he managed to gain any custody rights, it would destroy the fragile family they'd been building. Lily would be torn between homes, and Isabella's role in the child's life would become uncertain, potentially non-existent. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "Fight it, obviously. Lily is my daughter in every way that matters. I've been her father since birth. I've cared for her through her mother's death. He stopped, looking at Isabella with sudden realization. But that's not your fight, is it? This changes things for you. Isabella sank into a chair, her mind racing. He was right. She had no legal standing in Lily's life, no claim to the child she'd come to love as her own. If a custody battle ensued, she would be nothing more than an employee who could be dismissed at any time. Isabella, Marcus said urgently, crossing to kneel beside her chair. Look at me. She raised her eyes to his, and what she saw there took her breath away. Not uncertainty or calculation, but fierce determination and unmistakable love. Marry me, he said. Marcus, I know it's not the romantic proposal you deserve. I know the timing is terrible and the circumstances are complicated, but I love you, Isabella. I love the way you sing to Lily in 3 different languages, the way you make our house feel like a home. I love your strength and your gentleness and the way you've helped me learn to be a father. If we're married, David can't dismiss you as just an employee. You'd be Lily's stepmother with legal standing to stay in her life. You're asking me to marry you to strengthen a custody case? Isabella asked, her voice carefully neutral. No, Marcus said firmly. I'm asking you to marry me because I can't imagine my life without you in it. The custody case just makes it urgent instead of something we could take our time deciding. Isabella stared at him, her heart pounding. And if we marry for the wrong reasons? If we discover we were caught up in crisis and proximity? Then we'll deal with it together, Marcus said. But, Isabella, what I feel for you isn't crisis or convenience. It's love. Real, complicated, imperfect love. The kind that grows from shared struggles and mutual respect and genuine partnership. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. When she opened them again, Marcus was still there, still kneeling beside her chair, still looking at her like she was the answer to every prayer he'd never known he was praying. I love you too, she whispered. I've been fighting it for months, but I love you. And I love Lily like she's my own daughter. Then say yes, Marcus urged. Say yes, and let's build something real together. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Isabella thought about Mei Lin, about the daughter she'd lost and the love that had nowhere to go. She thought about Catherine, the woman whose memory had brought them together in the most unexpected way. She thought about Lily, sleeping peacefully upstairs, unaware that her entire future hung in the balance. Yes, she said finally. Yes, I'll marry you. Marcus's face transformed with joy and relief. He stood and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. I promise you won't regret this. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you feel cherished and valued and loved. I promise the same, Isabella whispered against his shoulder. We'll figure it out as we go. All of it. The custody battle, the marriage, how to blend our grief with our hope. They were married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony in Marcus's garden, with Lily in Isabella's arms throughout the service. The judge who officiated remarked afterward that he'd never seen a more natural family, never. Witnessed vows exchanged with such evident love and commitment. David's custody challenge came to nothing. Faced with the reality of a stable, loving home where Lily was thriving, and the prospect of a lengthy legal battle against Marcus's considerable resources, he withdrew his petition within a month. As Isabella adjusted to her new role as wife and mother, she found herself thinking often about the morning that had changed everything. That moment when Marcus had walked into the kitchen and found her feeding his daughter had seemed like a potential disaster at the time. Instead, it had been the beginning of healing for all of them. 1 year later, as she sat in the same kitchen, nursing her own son, Marcus had insisted they name him David Chen Blackwood after her father, while 2-year-old Lily played at her feet. Isabella marveled at how completely her life had transformed. The grief for Mei Lin would always be with her, a tender spot in her heart, but it no longer defined her. Instead, it had become part of the foundation of her capacity to love, to appreciate the precious nature of the family they'd built together. Marcus walked in from his morning run, sweating and breathless, and stopped to kiss Isabella's forehead and ruffle Lily's hair. Their life wasn't perfect. No life ever is. They still struggled sometimes with grief, with the complexity of blending their past losses with their present joy. But they struggled together with honesty and commitment and the knowledge that love isn't about avoiding pain, but about choosing to face it with someone who makes you stronger. That morning in the kitchen, when Marcus had caught Isabella feeding his baby with her own milk, had seemed like an ending, the end of propriety, of professional boundaries, of the careful walls they'd both built around their hearts. Instead, it had been a beginning. The beginning of a family built not on conventional foundations, but on the much stronger bedrock of genuine need, mutual care, and love that had grown from the ashes of loss into something more beautiful than either of them had dared to dream possible.